We shall live in peace someday. Thank you.
Thank you, John Legend. And welcome to everybody. Thank you all for joining us for the announcement of the Breathe Act. This bill comes at an absolutely historic moment. A people-powered movement in the streets has paved the path for this pressing people-powered bill. The Movement for Black Lives represents a unified front of Black activists, of policy experts, and everyday people directly impacted by centuries of excessive and remorseless policing. So many of our leaders have failed to deliver on the clear mandate coming from our communities to protect and to defend Black life. Today's press conference has one question at the core. That is, who among our leaders will answer the people's call? Who will answer the people's mandate for a new vision of community safety? The Breathe Act outlines a vision that truly defends Black lives, and it invests in communities where Black and marginalized communities can thrive, where they can be free, where they can breathe.
The Breathe Act is bold, it's meaningful, it's transformative. It pushes us to reimagine power structures and what community investment really looks like. If we listen to our community members and leaders in the streets, we can start to envision through this bill a new version for public safety, a new vision for public safety, one that protects and affirms Black lives. I stand in solidarity with the leaders from Movement for Black Lives and with my sister, Congresswoman Presley, and with the millions of protesters demanding transformation now. When they shout, "Show me what democracy looks like," I can't help but think that this is exactly what democracy looks like, a people-powered federal bill that responds to the work and mandates of local communities across the country. So I invite my colleagues, my fellow Congress members, to join me and other legislators in taking this very bold step towards a just future.
At the core of the Breathe Act is what become clear to many of us. Policing, as we know it, needs to be drastically less powerful. I urge our leaders to be bold and courageous in this moment. For over 4 decades, the federal government has poured billions of dollars into police departments. Federal dollars have incentivized arrest, jail and prison construction, and the militarization of constantly growing police forces. And the truth is, all these resources spent have not made us safer. We cannot innovate new approaches to safety and accountability. We can innovate new approaches to safety and accountability that better serve the needs of the people without creating massive gaps in our crisis response, without traumatizing and decimating communities. The Breathe Act gets us closer to justice.
Now, the Breathe Act is in honor of those who have lost their lives to police brutality. Let's go to our panel. Lauren, I'll start with you. Obviously, we had the Democratic bill that was passed in the House that's now sitting in the Senate. Now you have, of course, the Senate bill that failed. Okay, so what does this bill actually do? Is it broader than the House bill that's already been passed?
It's broader than the House bill, but I really think this entire thing, frankly, is a whole setup for next year, because it's unlikely that anything comprehensive is going to pass in the Senate, as we all know. And not to say that these people are sitting down, doing a head fake. I think they believe that something will pass and they're working for that, and that's fine. I'm just saying that I think that the likelier scenario is that you have a new president of the United States and that you have an actual chance to really have some real serious reform. I mean, if you can't get it in this moment, when can you get it? But the answer to that question, unfortunately, is you probably can't get it in this moment because Mitch McConnell is not going to allow it to happen. So real, true reform that involves things like taking immunity away from police and those things that we know would enact a price on people who kill people on duty and think that just nothing is going to happen with them, to them. That is a major piece that I think clearly has to be a part of this, and it is a part of this. So obviously the funding issue, the money, that's when it gets real. I mean, you can see that from what we see policy-wise around this country with regard to monuments and symbols and things that are not related to cash. The thing that I always look for is the money. In a few days, there is going to be a briefing on the entire issue of police reform by members of the CBC, which is going to be off the record, but I'll be a part of, and I'll know more of the details about exactly what's going on behind the scenes, because what you see out front at press conferences, as you know, Roland, and what's going on behind the scenes is two completely different things, as you know. So we'll see in the coming days whether or not this has any part of this has any real serious chance of becoming federal law.
And of course, what you have to deal with here, Mustafa, and that is, okay, they're presenting this. Where does it go? Does Speaker Nancy Pelosi endorse it? Do they move it forward? Does the House Judiciary Committee, do they actually take it up as well? So you can introduce a bill, but the question is, will it begin to gain some movement? And will the movement for Black lives go to the streets and reignite protests saying, consider this bill?
I think the latter is definitely going to happen, and I think it's going to play a role in the election as well. And I also think that this is a template. You know, this is an important one that I hope gets passed, because we have to be focused on moving our most vulnerable communities from surviving to thriving. But this is also an opportunity for the states to take a look at what's being proposed here on the federal level and to make some decisions themselves about the elements that they can begin to incorporate. And of course, we've seen since the Black Lives Matters has continued to grow that there are states and local municipalities that are beginning to, do better, if you will. Lauren hit it on the head too, because this is about money. Most folks don't really understand how much money we are talking about in relationship to policing. And it goes back to the Reconstruction era, where you had to snatch people off the streets, where we had these police departments and others that were put in place, the sheriffs and everybody else, to keep Black people in line, to put them into the prison system. So you got that free labor again. So all that dynamic is now just moved forward to the time period that we're now living in. And people need to be honest about that so that folks understand the totality of how much has been going on in the past, but how also those dynamics are playing, forward today. If you think about some of the militarized weapons and some of these armored units that are moving into, our policing, there's huge amounts of money, and there are very powerful people who are a part of this, who are making, a tremendous amount of money. So let's not just focus on these police departments, also focus on the people who are literally making billions of dollars off of what is going on.
Kelly.
No, I echo the sentiments of both of my colleagues here. I do think that what the congressmen are doing specifically is to set up for next year, no matter what happens, who is in office, because I sincerely doubt that anything is going to get passed right now in the middle of an election year. But the fact that it is introduced now, it'll gain traction, hopefully, and we will see what happens from there. But it is promising. And I am pleased with the fact that something is on the table. And that way they have a record of something being on the table, so that when the Republicans actually say no, they said no to something specifically. And that'll be even more fodder for them to be voted out of office.
Folks, here's a perfect...
Something on the table that goes fully to the left, which this is, because what the Democrats always make a mistake on is not going far enough. So when you negotiate all the way to the left, which is what they're doing with this is a full divesting of federal money from the police, then that calibrates the conversation. And so I think right there, it's sort of an important effort, even though it's unlikely to pass. So it's actually unlikely to get a lot of Democratic support.
All right, then. In this example here, folks, what we're talking about, a traffic stop for an alleged seatbelt violation in Orlando leads to an officer putting his knee on a man's neck.
Please, man. Hey, man, why y'all no, can you go, man? I can't even breathe. I got asthma, yo. Please, man. Hey, man, why y'all no, can you go, man? I can't even breathe. I got asthma, yo.
So 2 officers assigned to an elite special enforcement division were on what they call proactive patrol when they initiated the stop as Janet Feliciano pulled into her driveway on West South Street in the city's Paramore neighborhood. Well, the Special Enforcement Division normally focuses on violent crimes and offenders. Then the officer with his knee on the man's neck is Officer John Earl. The officer heard screaming is Luke Austin. I'm sorry, Mustafa. We go from a seatbelt violation to that type of arrest. Again, you have to ask, seriously? It escalates to that?
We see these trumped up charges all the time where, officers will, we remember in the 50s and the 60s to today. Oh, so you had a broken tail light. Well, how's that possible? Because I looked at my tail light, it wasn't broken. Well, that's the reason that I pulled you over. And now I need to search you. I need to search your car. So they utilize these tactics all the time in certain communities. So again, if you are a unit that is supposed to be focused on violent crime and you're pulling somebody over for a seatbelt violation, then we know that there is something amiss in what you are sharing with the country. And thank goodness we now have these videos that show these actions that are going on. And then I'll just put on my public health and environmental hat real quickly. We got 24 million people in our country who are suffering from asthma. So each time that you put these types of actions in place, you're literally almost taking somebody's life.
It's a seatbelt. And again, what precipitates a seatbelt violation that escalates to this type? This is why I keep saying, Lauren, these cops have got to learn to de-escalate situations.
Well, I think the bigger discussion there is we have to get to a point here we have fewer stops and fewer contacts made by police, and police are not as part of everybody's life as they are, because unfortunately with policing, it's like when you're a hammer, everything is a nail. And so when you're a hammer, you're looking for something to hammer. So, these departments that have all these police and keep hiring, there's stats now coming out where you have jurisdictions where the crime rate is going down, but the number of police hires are going up and the budget for police is going up. It's like this automatic pilot thing, and it's become such a part of our society in the United States that we feel, you see the resistance to any change in the budget, to any change in policing. And when you look at the crime stats, particularly for violent crime, it has been going down. And in some major cities, it's at its lowest point in like 3 and 4 decades. So then why do we have, all this policing? But the number of stops, which of course, in a lot of jurisdictions tends to be disproportionately African-American, what that shows you is that, you get these interactions that escalate for absolutely no reason, and in some cases lead to violence.
Kelly?
No, I agree. Your initial question of why it's just a seatbelt, it's something minor. It's not about the seatbelt. It's not about why he was pulled over. He was Black, period. And this is why the Black Lives Matter movement is in existence, because Black lives in this country do not matter. And all we're trying to do is get people to recognize our humanity and to matter. Just matter, bare minimum. Just recognize that I'm a human and that I matter. That's it. So the fact that police officers do not agree with that sentiment, that we matter, they do not agree with that. That's why this keeps happening. It has nothing to do with our laws and our legislation. It has everything to do with our history and our pattern of behavior towards Black people. Legislation can fix that to an extent, but ultimately it has to deal with the innate behavior and culture of this country, because racism is America. And the sooner that we can realize that, the sooner Black lives actually can matter. But right now, this is what we're going to see until that happens.
Folks, law enforcement is investigating an alleged attempted lynching of a Black man by a group of white people that happened on July 4th in Indiana. Vox Booker was on his way to watch a lunar eclipse at Lake Monroe when a group of 5 white men with Confederate flags accused him and a friend of trespassing on private property. Booker was attacked, beaten, and pinned to a tree. The group threatened to lynch him. Now, Booker posted the account of the assault on his Facebook page. Folks, it is shocking and stunning to watch. So just warning you in advance. Look at this.
Stop, let him go. You're causing more problems. Let him go.
We're just trying to get out of here, guys. We're just trying to get out of here.
Let him go.
Let him go, dude. Let him go. Let him go. Please, let him go. Please let him go. We're going to as soon as you let him go. I'm going to.
Gotta get the fuck out of here.
Let him go.
Get your phones out of here and go.
Let him
Shake
go.
your head at me
Let him
and
go.
go. Get the
Let him
fuck
go.
out of here. You happy about this? You fucking nappy-headed bitch. You happy about this?
What do you really want to call me?
Do it. You nappy-headed bitch.
What do you want to call me?
About this? You with your 5 white friends? You happy with your 5 white friends?
You guys started all this shit.
Fuck you. Put it in your fucking film, bitch.
Film it. Film it all. Fuck you.
Come over here again. Come over here again.
This sucks. This sucks both ways, guys.
Come over here again.
This sucks both ways.
No,
Let's go. Come on.
Just like when you guys invaded us.
No one invaded.
You guys invaded us. We were having a great time and you invaded us.
No one invaded you.
You stupid fucking liberal fucks.
Bring it back.
That's what you get. Take your ass on.
I'm fine. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, hold your heart, you little fucking bitch.
I know. You were so amazing. Thank you for saying that.
Folks had better understand, Mustafa, that if that guy had stopped filming and left, they would have killed that brother.
Without a doubt.
I think they should be arrested for kidnapping. They should be arrested for assault.
I agree. And these stories happen all the time, and many times they're not captured on video. You know, everybody knows now I'm at the National Wildlife Federation and, deal with all this public land stuff. And one of the things that I've shared with folks is that, for many folks going out into the forest, into the woods, into public lands, into the mountains, it is unsafe for folks. So we have to create a safe space. And that means that there has to be accountability in the law when people do these types of things. If you are impeding someone from moving, you are breaking a law. Now, if you want to say that somebody came onto private land, then you ask them to go back onto whatever that public land might be. But you have no right to put your hands on folks. And, we continue to allow these types of behaviors to happen. And a part of this story also is the DNR officers as well, when they came and actually interviewed what was going on and then decided not to take it to, another level and to work with the local police department and others to make sure that the right types of things were being captured in the legal process, if you will. They need to go to jail.
Pure and simple, Lauren.
Well, obviously there should be some sort of arrest for assault. It's all right there on tape. It just brings to mind once again the power and the importance of this thing right here in my hand. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I don't know where we would be exactly. We wouldn't even be talking about police reform right now, and we wouldn't be seeing half of these things that happened, and we'd be still in this zone where we relay these stories. We've been relaying these stories forever, and nobody has ever believed African Americans when they've told these stories. And now that we have the cell phone camera, the power of social media, this is where we find that, this is one of my sort of odd worries, is that when you don't have something on video, will anybody actually ever believe you? But when I think about this moment, particularly with regard to police reform, I think about the fact that Malcolm X was talking about the same thing over 40 years ago. I mean, there really isn't any difference other than the fact that we do have video proof of it. Even with video proof, no arrest. It's pretty amazing.
Speaking of video, a white man attacked a black woman who was not happy about his girl spitting on her. He wasn't prepared for what happened next.
The law's gonna protect them anyway. She spit on him. She's about that. She done spit on him. That's who they arguing with. Neil Center. She crying, y'all. She scared. She crying. Come outside, nigga. Come outside. I don't give a fuck about none of that. Come out. I'm not listening. You don't ever do that shit thinking nobody ain't ready to do something to you. Nigga, step out these goddamn doors. They scared. They don't want it. They don't want it. They don't want it. Ah, y'all ready to step outside? Ooh. Ooh, he fighting her. Ooh, Neil Center. Neil Center. Neil Center. Oh, she spit on him. She kicked him. Neil Center. I know my mom in real life. Wait, Dio. He done. He done. He done. He done. Oh! Oh my God! Stay down. Stay down. Yeah, keep his ass. The police get here like they do us. He started that shit. Damn! Oh my God! He need an ambulance.
He need an ambulance. So his girlfriend, the white woman, spits on the sister, and this whole thing erupts. They might want to hire them some new security guards, because them security guards wasn't doing a damn thing, Kelly.
The security guards were outside. That was a tiny security guard. And I don't shame bodies and strength or whatever, but, you know, balance is necessary sometimes, and that clearly wasn't the case here. I don't have not nary a problem with that man getting his ass beat and he's on the ground. Do it again. Because for what? Like, why were you even in her vicinity? You had every opportunity. Like, you were at the door. You could have left. You could have de-escalated the situation and just left. But no, you thought that you had something within you to actually go out there and hit a woman who did nothing to you. You deserve to get your ass beat. Good riddance.
I keep trying to tell folks, Mustafa, act a fool. This stuff gonna happen. I keep trying to warn these people.
Black folks not taking disrespect anymore. We believe in the lessons of Martin Luther King, and we appreciate that, nonviolence. But if you put your hands on us, we're gonna take your hands off of us and give you more probably than you had intended to receive. You know, they say it ain't the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. So not only, and it was interesting also, so let me say this, because the security guard, the little small sister, he even swang on her. And then the brother jumped in. And the dude was bigger than the brother, but the brother was like, you know what? You're not going to disrespect our sisters. You're not going to spit on us. This is not 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970. If you decide that that's the type of behavior that you want to utilize, then we're going to give you some act right.
Equal rights and equal lefts.
Lauren,
that's what happened.
Lauren?
Yeah, all I can say is it reminds me of the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. I mean, that's basically, you know, it's sad to see the amount of anger that we see in some of these videos. People just angry about various things, some petty, some not petty. And I know that obviously these videos are not a full representation of 360 million people in the United States, but it's amazing how, you know, how something can just like escalate out of control. But You know, if you want to fight, you better get ready to, you better, if you're going to start a physical altercation with somebody, you better be sure of yourself. You better be sure you're the person in the room that's going to win. And he picked the wrong person out in the bar for the bar fight on that one.
All right, folks, there are always the online ads that are put out all the time that very much target the Trump administration. There's a new batch dropping every day. So here's what dropped today. We'll come back and discuss with our panel. Watch this, y'all.
I know so many Americans are suffering loss of a loved one, suffering economic hardship. The country is crying out for leadership that can unite us, leadership that brings us together. That's what the presidency is, the duty to care for all of us, not just those who vote for us, but all of us. But I promise you this, I won't traffic in fear and division. I won't fan the flames of hate. I'll seek to heal the racial wounds that have long plagued our country, not use them for political gain. I'll do my job and I will take responsibility. I won't blame others. You know, I've said from the outset of this election that we're in the battle for the soul of this nation. What we believe, and maybe most importantly, who we want to be, it's all at stake. We stand together, finally as one America, we'll rise stronger than we were before. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
For the first time in our memory, many Americans are asking, does history still have a place for America? There are some who answer no, that we must tell our children not to dream as we once dreamed. Together, tonight, let us say that America is still united, still strong, still compassionate, still willing to stand by those who are persecuted or alone. For those who are victims of police states or government-induced torture or terror, let us speak for them. I believe we can embark on a new age of reform in this country that will make government again responsive to people. We can fight corruption while we work to bring into our government women and men of competence and high integrity. Tomorrow, you will be making a choice between different visions of the future. Are you more confident that our economy will create productive work for our society? Or are you less confident? Do you feel you can keep the job you have or gain a job if you don't have one? Are you pleased with the ability of young people to buy a home, of the elderly to live their remaining years in happiness, of our youngsters to take pride in the world we have built for them? Are you convinced that we have earned the respect of the world and our allies? Let us resolve tonight that young Americans will always find a city of hope in a country that is free. And let us resolve they will say of our day and of our generation that we did keep faith with our God, that we did act worthy of ourselves, that we did protect and pass on lovingly that shining city on a hill.
Biden now leads the president.
He's going to be your president.
Why do you think you're losing, Donald?
Because some people don't love me, maybe.
It's because you've got a loyalty problem. Loyalty problem. They're in your campaign. They're in your campaign. Your White House. Your White House. In Congress. In Congress. Even your own family. Your own family. They whisper about you. They whisper about you. They leak, spin, lie. They tell the media they're smart and you're out of control. And you're out of control. That you can't focus. Can't focus. That you're mentally and physically weak. Physically weak. That you hide in your bunker, scared and shaky. Laugh when you can't walk down a ramp or drink water. All of them, they're in your campaign. The ones you know and the ones you don't know. Whispering about you. Ones you don't know. They expect you to lose. They want the media to like them and to get one last big payday before you go down. With so many leaks, you probably think it could be anyone. So many leaks. Donald, it could be anyone. It's everyone. It's everyone.
With tens of millions out of work, Trump promised to provide relief to struggling businesses hit hard by COVID-19. But who was put in charge of oversight of the more than $2 trillion meant to save jobs?
I'll be the oversight.
So where did the money go?
The small business loan program ran out of money.
Several large chains have received millions. It was shameful.
But it didn't end there. Conservative anti-tax crusader Grover Norquist happily took a handout in the form of a 7-figure check. The Daily Caller, founded by Fox News host Tucker Carlson, received as much as $1 million.
Handouts are depressing and they're degrading.
A winery owned by Republican Congressman Devin Nunes raked in the moolah. Not one, but 3 companies tied to Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Even rapper Kanye West got in on the action. Sometimes debt just disappears.
It's like a miracle, it will disappear.
I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here.
This is where we know the money went. But there is still another $400 billion not accounted for. Where did it go? Tell Donald Trump to stop using your money to make him and his rich friends richer. Tell Trump and his cronies, leave me alone. Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, wait a second. Those people look like looters.
The Trump Hotel. It's turned into the place to be for lobbyists and foreign officials.
Government money, your tax dollars, into Donald Trump's company.
Well, yes, technically they were doing that.
Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner made at least $82 million last year.
The prince is saying, I have
trips on costly jets with American taxpayers footing the bill.
A $31,000 mahogany dining set.
$43,000 phone booth.
Serious questions about the Trump Organization meant to raise money for children with cancer.
What is not acceptable? Anything?
Mike Pence is now revising his story a 3rd time on going 180 miles out of his way to go stay at Trump's resort.
The Chinese government awarded Ivanka Trump's brand 7 new trademarks.
You sold over $1 million in stocks before the market went down. Were you trading on inside information?
A small Montana power company landed a $300 million contract.
40 million Americans filed for unemployment.
The small business loan program ran out of money.
Several large chains have received millions.
It was shameful.
The Trump campaign owes nearly $570,000 to El Paso, Texas.
Will you commit publicly that none of that taxpayer money will go towards your own hotels?
We have to save some of these great companies.
Among the biggest grifters in American history.
Well, Lauren, I got to say, Republicans who hate Donald Trump, they know how to do ads. That one using Ronald Reagan's voice, attacking Donald Trump. Damn, that was good.
Yeah, that was particularly good because it brought up the issue of conservatives who always want to argue for less government in your life until it's the police harassing African Americans. Then suddenly we don't believe in less government. And, you know, the beauty of so many of those ads is that all you have to do is roll tape. You don't really have to come up with any concepts. You sure as hell don't have to make anything up. You just have to deal with straight reality. Just rolling video, just quoting what people said, saying what happened, saying how much money disappeared. It makes it easy. I mean, that's the best thing about the ads is that it's all true.
And what's happening, Mustafa, it is really getting to Donald Trump. It's driving him crazy. You look at his poll numbers. He's flailing. Now, of course, he is fixated on the Confederate flag, attacking NASCAR and Bubba Wallace and the Confederate statues. Now, of course, I saw a story where these White House insiders are troubled with Trump going so hard to racist language. Here's my whole deal. Well, if y'all are bothered, quit. Publicly resign and say this is not tolerated. In fact, I'm gonna try to find it. That was a woman who worked for the South Carolina GOP. I'm gonna try to find it. And someone shot a photo where she walked up to Senator Tim Scott and quit. She said, because I cannot work for a party that is led by a racist. I'm gonna try to find it, but that's what you're dealing with.
Well, I resigned because I couldn't work for a party that I knew was going to kill black folks and brown folks and low-income white folks and indigenous folks. So, yeah, people should resign because it says something about your character, says something about your morals, it says something about the value that you place on our democracy. You know, and the president, I hope he does get upset because he continues each and every day. So racism has always existed, but he continues to pump it into the veins of America each and every day. And people get addicted to that racism because they see him doing it, saying it. We saw what he did on July the 4th out at Mount Rushmore and in almost every one of his additional speeches. So people just need to also understand a while ago, there was something called the barbarians at the gate, you know, very focused on, you know, the resources and the money and how people are padding their pockets in this administration because they understand. They watched what happened in South Africa. They knew change was going to happen in our country. So one of the ways that you hold on to power is to make sure that you're holding on to the wealth and expanding your wealth. So people should understand the game that is going on. Trump wants to cause chaos. He wants people to get, all of these various racialized types of things all flared up. And when he can do that, then the sleight of hand happens. That's when they can manipulate policy. That's when they can reach into the till and continue to pull and pull and pull so that when their time is up, that they feel like they'll still have power.
In fact, I did find that this woman named Lisa Marie. This is the tweet right here. Go to it. This is the moment last July when I told Senator Tim Scott that I was resigning from South Carolina GOP because I believed Trump to be a racist. I have not one regret. Hashtag Lincoln Project, hashtag Buy Don 2020, hashtag Vote Him Out. And in fact, she actually put together let me see if I can find. She actually put together a video where she was specifically talking to suburban white women, these Republican women. I want to go ahead and play this here. Watch this.
South Carolina. I'm a lifelong Republican voter. I've donated to, campaigned for, and voted for Republicans. My first presidential vote was for Ronald Reagan. I did not vote for President Trump in 2016. I supported John Kasich. When I heard that Access Hollywood tape in October of 2016, I knew I couldn't cast my vote in good conscience for Donald Trump. When he was elected, I was told by my fellow Republicans to give him a chance. I tried. I was told there'd be a presidential pivot, but there wasn't. President Trump has continued to gaslight our nation. He continues to use social media just like any online troll would do. On his watch, our national debt has increased over $6 trillion just in 3.5 years. Our annual deficits exceed $1 trillion. And most recently, this administration had my daughter's friend, who was peacefully protesting before curfew, gassed and shot at in Lafayette Park. As a mother, I was outraged. As a citizen, I'm disgusted. People keep saying that suburban women are going to change this election. I'm one of those suburban women. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, not because I'm a Democrat. I'm voting for Joe Biden to restore decency in our nation. I hope you'll join me.
Kelly, when I interviewed John Ward for his book, The End of Camelot, and he talked about that the 1976 campaign when Jimmy Carter was elected. Jimmy Carter ran on this notion of decency and character. I said then, that was December 2018. And I said this is how Democrats should run against Donald Trump. Now, I am not falling for any polls. I keep telling people, ignore all of these polls. But the reality is this here, and you see this in election after election. You are seeing people who say, I cannot support this man. That can be a difference maker. And when you have white women like her, again, he got 53% of white women in 2016. I said, well, after he won, if Donald Trump loses 5 to 8% of those white women and he only gets 45%, he loses in 2020.
No, I completely agree with you on that. This election, I would venture to say it's not even about decency anymore. It's not about morals anymore. It's just the fact the bar has been set or lowered so low in terms of the standard of what a president is supposed to do that we just need someone to raise it back to where it was. Now, you can call that decency, you can call it morals. I just want the bar raised again. And that's why a lot of people, this woman included, is voting for Biden, because Trump has just obliterated the bar in the worst possible way. He has done everything in his power to kill Americans. especially when it comes to his response to COVID-19 pandemic. When he in 2016 was talking about draining the swamp, he wasn't talking about administrations. He was talking about American citizens. He was talking about the U.S. He was talking about us. And it is made apparent by his attitude, by his tweets, by his policies and lack thereof. It has been made apparent through his response to this pandemic. It has been made apparent through his voter base. And as a result, the bar is just gone. And all we need Biden to do is to make a new bar, frankly, and then raise it. Because right now we have no bar. Because it's just a new low every day with this man. And American people are tired. And if they're not, they should be.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And so this is, again, what folks should be really paying attention, looking out for as we talk about what's about to be happening in this election. And folks, we're going to keep showing you these ads. I mean, they're dropping these things like Tupac dropped mixtapes. So we're going to keep showing you as many of these as possible. I do want to before I go to a break, I want to go to this next story. Actually, I'm going to go to a break, then I'm going to come back. First of all, the second half of the show, we're going to talk about civil rights groups meeting today with Facebook. Did not go well. 2, we're going to talk about Essence Magazine having some managerial issues where black women are saying they're not being respected. And Black Sports Online. The brother who runs that, he's out of a job at TMZ because of sexual misconduct allegations. And we also talked with one of the stars of the Hamilton Broadway production, Renee Elise Goldsberry. All of that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, last week issues at Essence Communications where, of course, a group of black women wrote an open letter. It was an anonymous letter that they actually posted on Medium, talking about what they felt things need to be changed. It was signed by Black Female Anonymous, a group of women who work at Essence and former employees. Now, what ended up happening was they made a number of demands, including 4 top executives to step down or step away. Well, Essence, what they did was they named Carolyn Wanga as the new interim CEO following the June 28th publication of an open letter, again, which they cited allegations of mistreatment and abuse of black female employees by the company's owner, Richelieu Davis, as well as former CEO Michelle Ebanks, as well as Mona Liu, who was the top editor or chief content officer, and also another top executive over the festival. Now, here's what has happened. Richelieu stepped away from day-to-day running of Essence Magazine. Carolyn Wanga, as I said, she is going to be the interim CEO. Now, Michelle Ebanks, Essence made clear that she had no managerial role since stepping down as a CEO several months ago, although she's on the board of Essence Ventures. Now, also, Mona Liu, again, she also has stepped away, and they also announced that Joy Profit was taking a job with another company, and that was already done before all of this came about. And so we'll certainly see what happens next. Now, yesterday, of course, we talked about what happened at Ebony Magazine. Also, another story that happened, Robert Little. Well, TMZ, of course, he is the founder of Black Sports Online. Well, he had a role on this TMZ sports show. They announced today that they have cut ties with him after allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced. And of course, TMZ, that show airs on Fox Sports 1. Former BSO female employees claim that he harassed them, requested sexual favors, and made inappropriate comments in the workplace. He later issued this video.
All right. So first off, let me say this. You know, there are some things, as you saw, that I've said to my female contributors in the past that were very inappropriate. Because inconsiderate and they were flat out wrong. And for that, I apologize for that, 100%. I was totally wrong with that. I shouldn't have let it happen. I shouldn't have said it. I apologize to all of those women publicly. I have the utmost respect for Black women. My mom's Black, wife's Black. I should never put them in a position to be uncomfortable. So I apologize to them publicly.
Well, there were some people who simply said that wasn't good enough. Let's go to my panel. I'm going to go to you, Lauren, first. The fact that in the wake of George, and I keep saying this, in the wake of George Floyd's death, you have seen this unleashing of the reckoning, not just with white folks, but inside of even Black media companies where folks are using the power of their voice. That's what you see that happened here. That's what you saw what happened there with Robert Little. That's what you saw, again, even in terms of the changes happening at Ebony Magazine. Your thoughts about all of this?
My thoughts are the reckoning we're having in Black media has been quite interesting. The Wesley Lowery article, the Soledad O'Brien article, those were really interesting looks into things that we've been dealing with as Black journalists forever.
Now, their articles were targeting mainstream, but in this case, you're talking about Black media companies.
Right. And right. That's true. But I do think the two things are slightly related. But yeah, sure. So this is focused on Black media companies. I'm a believer in if you have a gripe with somebody, then you should not necessarily be able to take them out anonymously. You know, I guess as the daughter of a law enforcement person, there's a certain thing in me of just you should have to face your accuser, I guess you could say. And, in the case of the Essence situation, there were some people involved who were former employees. So they had no risk really that I know of. I can see being an employee at a place and being very reluctant to speak up, as a sitting employee. But I come from a tradition of journalism where you know both sides of the story before you run your mouth about it. And it's not that I don't believe that these things happen, because I know damn well that they happen. I've worked in media for over 20 years, and the Ebony example, the Essence example sounded like not just sexual harassment, but it sounded like crazy bosses, which when you work in television, you get very used to. You get very used to abusive, crazy people, and I do think there's something to be said for not getting used to that. But at the same time, I'm a believer in knowing the details of what happened. I mean, I know Ed Henry, and I know, again, this has nothing to do with Black media. Ed Henry got fired last week. I know him a little bit, and I know that obviously we're living in a changing world, but I have absolutely no idea what the allegations are in detail. And without knowing that, I just choose not to say anything until I know. Because I've seen it happen where, you hear one version of a story, you hear one side of it, and then you know nothing about the other side, then you find out something later. And when people are anonymous, I just want to know more about the story before I say anything.
Well, what you have, what jumps out here is that you had employees at Essence who felt they couldn't go to HR because, according to this letter, the owner's wife was over HR. And so now you're seeing here these level of changes taking place, Mustafa. And again, what it speaks to is that, first of all, media, for the longest, nobody reported on media, but here are people who are gaining their voice, who are saying, we want to see changes, and these companies are paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about structural changes, structural inequalities, that is internal also inside of our own communities, inside of our own organizations, inside of our own businesses. So that means that when we see bad management practices, they have to be called out. If we see sexism and racism happening inside of our organizations, if it's a Black organization or if it's a multicultural organization, it has to be addressed. There's a culture shift that is happening. Old bad behaviors will no longer be tolerated. And in many instances, you will lose your job. You will lose the support of your membership base. You will lose advertising if you don't address it.
Kelly.
Get sued.
I find it interesting how, with the Me Too movement, when women were coming forward anonymously, by and large, we trusted that account. And as the court of public opinion, we moved forward accordingly. However, when it comes to our own Black women coming forward anonymously for good cause, we all of a sudden have questions. And I want to challenge the thought that I believe I heard Lauren say earlier, that it was implied from what I heard that we should be used to crazy bosses in the journalism space. And if I'm incorrect, I stand corrected. But as someone who has been in the journalism space, as well as the legal space, as well as the corporate space, who has had a slew of crazy bosses, there should be no reason at no point in anyone's career that you should be disrespected for the purposes of just being disrespected. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much tenure you have. I don't care what your influence is in the industry. I am still a human being. I am still at work, and I still have a sense of dignity and integrity about my work and myself, such that you need to recognize that and address it accordingly. So when I heard that, when I read the article, because I did read the article regarding the women of Essence and their complaints about the workplace. I've been in workplaces like that. And I understand why they came anonymously, because the power and influence that Essence has within the media industry at large, specifically the Black media industry, it would not surprise me that if they came forward with their full names, that they would be blacklisted throughout the entire industry. And that's why they became anonymous. That's why they went to Medium anonymously and voiced their opinions and their complaints and their concerns regarding what was going on in the workplace. So I don't have a problem with what happened. All I have a problem with is what's going to happen if it's not addressed correctly.
Lauren?
Yeah, so what I said was, I'm not making any argument that anybody should put up with abusive behavior. I'm just making this point that I'm one of these people. I know this is old-fashioned. I'm one of these people who wants to hear all sides of the story before making a judgment. It had nothing to do with Black women or white women. I was saying that when it was Christine Blasey Ford that came out of nowhere. I was on, in fact, Roland's show and said, we need due process, and had the panelist next to me say, he doesn't deserve due process. We know what happened. Well, we don't know what happened.
Well, do you want all sides of the story?
My belief is that...
Well, hold on, wait. Lauren finished and Kelly.
So this is not a commentary on the Black women of Essence, because I have no doubt, as somebody who's worked in media, I have no doubt they're probably accurate. Certainly the way that the three people immediately resigned would indicate that as well. I'm just saying that with that package that we just saw, the fella, Robin Little, everybody, I'm just a believer in believing both sides. I would also say this. Increasingly, we live in a culture where people seem very sensitive about like everything. And I don't mean this, and when I say everything, I'm not talking about sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is inappropriate no matter what. I'm talking about people who think that criticism in the workplace is somehow now a hostile work environment. Like if I tell you that you're not doing your job correctly, now that's a hostile work environment. I've seen that. And I do think to some extent, particularly in the space that we live in, media, sort of an artistic space, journalism, you're going to have arguments, you're going to have disagreements, you're going to have times when people raise their voice a little bit. Again, I'm not talking about sexual harassment, okay? That's inappropriate no matter what. I'm talking about when people disagree and have some sort of an argument. I've seen it where people have used that as the vehicle of, oh, now I'm in a hostile work environment and now I'm going to make you pay for it. And a lot of these companies are having to let people go, quite frankly, to avoid civil litigation. Now, obviously, for the sexual harassment space, they do have to let these people go because they're going to get sued. But it's starting to creep into sort of other topics as well.
Kelly, go ahead.
I think that based off of what you just said of you being old-fashioned, that I feel like your threshold for criticism is a lot higher than it needs to be. And there's a difference between criticism and beratement. And I don't know these women. Obviously, they're anonymous. But there's something that needs to be said about a group of women coming together with the consensus of the work environment such that they needed to take this measure to get their voices heard. I sincerely doubt that it was just on the premise of somebody not liking their work. I think it was more on the premise of beratement and harassment, verbally, sometimes psychologically. I've been in those kinds of work environments. I know what it's like for my work to be criticized, and you take that as it comes. Like you said, journalism is a very creative space in a lot of respects, but there's a difference between criticism that you can take and beratement that pushes the level of respect. And I feel like the latter is what happened at Essence and other places as well. And
okay. Well, first of all, remember, I heard you laughing there, Mustafa, so I want to give you the final comment here. One of the things that the letter talked about, was pay. It talked about women who've gone on maternity leave and how they've been mistreated as well. So they laid out all their for your final comment.
Well, I'm smart enough to not mansplain. The sisters understand the challenges that they have faced, which in many instances men will never have to go through. So I think that, we just need to make sure that we're honoring each other. I think there's a way that you can provide corrective criticism that is also tied to whatever the skill sets, training, whatever it is that folks might need. And I think that's the difference between good management and bad management. Good management is actually trying to figure out a way to uplift people, to make the organization stronger. And bad management is focused on, trying to point the finger someplace else.
All right, folks, let's talk about this story here. A couple hours ago, civil rights groups ended their meeting with Mark Zuckerberg as well as CEO Sheryl Sandberg over a growing advertising boycott. The boycott is a continuation of a conversation about the need for Facebook to do a better job of monitoring objectionable content on their social media platforms. It was launched 3 weeks ago, and the Stop Hate for Profit campaign has forced Facebook to deal with the role it plays in spreading white supremacy and systemic racism. And the organizers include the Color of Change, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and the Anti-Defamation League. They have asked Facebook to submit to independent audits of hate speech and misinformation, remove all hate speech and hate groups, refund corporations when ads appear next to hate speech, and hire a civil rights executive to scrutinize products and policies for discrimination and hate. Well, more than 400, close to 500 companies have pulled their advertising. Guess that didn't get the attention. Today, there was a meeting among those groups, again, as I said, with Mark Zuckerberg as well as Sheryl Sandberg, and this is what Rashad Robinson tweeted out. He, of course, leads Color Change. Met with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook leadership today. It was a disappointment. They have had our demands for years, and yet it is abundantly clear that they are not yet ready to address the vitriolic hate on their platform. Go to my iPad, please. This is a email that Derek Johnson sent out of the NAACP. It was abundantly clear in our meeting today that Mark Zuckerberg and the Facebook team are not yet ready to address the vitriolic hate on their platform. Zuckerberg offered the same old defense of white supremacists and other hateful groups on Facebook that our coalition, advertisers, and society at large have heard too many times before. Instead of actually responding to the demands of dozens of the platform's largest advertisers that have joined the Stop Hate for Profit ad boycott during the month of July, Facebook wants us to accept the same old rhetoric repackaged as a fresh response. The only recommendation they even attempted to address is hiring a civil rights position, but were unable to commit to the crucial piece of the position being at the C-suite level or what the requirements for the position will be. However, they offered no attempt to respond to the other 9 recommendations. Zuckerberg offered no automatic recourse for advertisers whose content runs alongside hateful posts. He had no answer for why Facebook recommends hateful groups to users. He refused to agree to provide an option for victims of hate and harassment to connect with a live Facebook representative. He declined to adopt common sense content moderation policies and practices, like the ones put forward by the Change the Terms Coalition, or develop a process to ensure that their terms of service are fairly applied and do not bend to political expediency. And he did not offer any tangible plans on how Facebook will address the rampant disinformation and violent conspiracies on its platform. Instead, he offered a retread of the same old talking points from last week, tweaks around the edges with no details or timelines around the MRC audit they have touted, with only the barest minimum of labeling misinformation in political speech with a civil rights audit we asked for and empty refrains of "we are trying." None of this is hard, especially for one of the world's most innovative companies whose founder coined the term "move fast and break things." Mark Zuckerberg, you aren't breaking things, you are breaking people. With a stroke of a pen, you could make Facebook better for your users, your advertisers, and society. We hope that you continue thinking about the consequences of what you have wrought and come back to the table soon with real change. Signed by Derek Johnson. Now, Mustafa, here's the thing that's really the issue here. Facebook generates something around $70 billion a year. More than 400, close to 500 major companies have pulled out. But here's the problem. They only account for around 6 or 8% of all Facebook's money. Facebook makes their money from smaller advertisers as an aggregate. And so that's going to be the difference. The difference is going to be if you're going to see, again, folks begin to pull back and it starts reaching 10, 20, 30 billion. That is the difference, Mustafa.
That's the tipping point that folks have to get to. And folks have to remember that they have power. They have power in how they're utilizing their dollars. So for those mid-level and even smaller level folks who are advertising, you have to let them know what your expectations are. That's one. And then for everybody else who's out here, if we're talking about real systemic change, then you have to, in your own personal capacity, make a decision. If you are going to continue to utilize Facebook in this 30-day process that's going on and moving forward, and here's where it gets real tough for a lot of our folks, are you going to utilize Instagram? And are you going to support folks on Instagram also? So if you say you want change to happen, and we know that change costs, and we know that change can be painful, then that means that you may have to no longer also utilize Facebook and Instagram, and you also have to get engaged in the process and hold these other folks who are mid-level and lower level who are advertising on these platforms.
Kelly.
People have been talking about Facebook for a while in terms of how covertly racist it is when it comes to groups, how they're formed, advertising that gets denied, advertising that gets approved. I believe that if Facebook doesn't get its act together, we need a mass exodus of some form, either by way of advertising dollars or users in general, because it is becoming more and more apparent that money talks. And we already knew that, but money really does talk. So the more that we withhold our funds, the more that we actually come together as a consensus, as a conglomerate, and move accordingly away from Facebook and away from entities in general that are not serving us, I feel like that's when systemic change is going to happen, like you said.
Lauren?
Yeah, Facebook doesn't care about this issue, doesn't care about hate speech on their platform. They clearly don't care. It doesn't matter who they talk to, who talks to them, how many meetings we have, it's the same result. Clearly, the only thing they care about is making money. They don't care if the Russians infiltrate their platform and interfere with our elections. They don't care about racism. So, whatever the next big step is, I do think certainly the boycott is a great idea because what affects their bottom line, I guess, brought them to the table on this particular conversation. But it's clear that Mark Zuckerberg does not care about this issue. I mean, it is very clear. And I'm surprised that he even took the meeting. I was surprised to hear that the meeting was actually happening. But I think until they're broken up or until the boycott gets to the point where they really are impacting a mass amount of their revenue, we're going to be talking about this. But they clearly do not care about this issue.
That's true. And so we will see what happens next. All right, y'all. You know what time it is?
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Carl.
Illegally selling water without a permit
on my property.
Whoa! Hey!
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, folks. A crazy-ass white woman in Tennessee. She taunted Black Lives Matter protesters, saying white lives matter, and what are you going to do about it? Watch this.
Matter. White lives matter, you black, you twisted, crazy person.
There you go. Let her talk. Let her say whatever she wants to say.
What are you gonna do?
Say whatever
What are you gonna do?
Say whatever you want to say.
Run and cry.
No, say whatever you want to say.
Don't tell her shit. I didn't say a word. I'm standing here. How's it going? You need to move your ugly ass. Get the fuck out of our way. You don't want white lives matter. You're just a poor little black girl who's got a messed up mind. That's it. White lives matter. White lives matter.
It's not true. I know it's not true. I know my worth.
White lives matter. Look at that accomplished like that. You know, there's probably more people that understand of what you're trying to do, but you're not going to settle it like this. You're not going to settle it by shooting police officers, spitting in cameras, blah, 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 on and on and on.
Say it again. Say it again. You live what?
No, she lied. He wasn't doing nothing.
He just got it up there.
You're a liar. Stop. You're a liar. You're a liar. White lives matter, sister. White lives matter. White lives are better. White lives matter. You kept you motherfuckers safe.
You know, I get a kick out of when they start chanting USA as somehow folks are not from the USA. Yeah, that's always pretty. That's a cute one. But here's the other deal: the woman there who was in that orange Tennessee shirt. Well, she lost her job. She lost her job, and I keep trying to explain to these people, y'all. I don't mind when these white folks act a fool, Lauren, because they gonna keep losing their jobs, and so they can single-handedly take care of the black unemployment rate.
Yeah, I don't know why people are so insecure. I mean, the insecurity levels in some of these videos is really high. The fact that somebody's saying Black Lives Matter sets you off, and then you feel like that's an attack for you, and you're insecure, and now you've lost your job. You know, it is just really sad and embarrassing. But, you know, we live in like this era of the snowflake, and it's like very apparent that even when you have like some sort of a disagreement, it's like people feel this need to be out in the street saying the opposite. Like, why? Why? Like,
Yeah.
Is money coming out of your bank account because somebody said Black Lives Matter? So it's really sad.
Yeah, I just sort of just look at him, Mustafa, and I'm kind of like, hey, y'all keep acting a fool, keep losing your jobs. I'm telling you, once we find out, just 100 black people should go apply for that person's job.
As we've said time and time again, racism now costs. We know that we've paid a cost in the past, but now when you, as you said, act a fool, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you your job, cost you an embarrassment, cost you in a whole bunch of different things. But I will say this to what Lauren just shared. The reason that these folks are so upset is because if they actually have to truly compete, they've never wanted that. That's the reason that they have kept black people and other people of color under their thumb through policy, through statutes, through all these various things that allowed them to feel better about who they were. Instead of improving yourself in your own situation, they decided to push others down. So, you know, you get what you get now.
Kelly.
Every time I see a video like this now, especially when it doesn't involve like outward violence, I think about the clip that I saw on Twitter of the woman saying, "You about to lose your job." You like, I feel like that's what you need to say every time something like this happens. Like, don't even respond. Just sing that to the white people, because that's what's going to happen now. Like Mustafa said, racism costs. It already cost beforehand, but now it's apparent that it's going to cost. It's apparent that you're going to lose your job because you are literally doing something adverse to whatever job you have.
Yep.
Like, it makes no sense. Just keep your mouth shut. Be racist behind closed doors and not at your job and not in public like this. It makes no sense.
No, I disagree. I want them to be as racist as they can publicly so they can all get fired. I'm good with that 1,000%.
I'm good with it too. I'm just saying, like, if
No,
you really don't want to lose
I'm saying, no,
just shut
no. Please keep running your mouth. Please, by all means. I appreciate it. Keep running your mouth. All right, folks, I appreciate it. Lauren, Mustafa, Kelly, thank you so very much for being on our panel today. Folks, got to go to break. We come back. We'll talk to one of the stars of the Broadway play, Hamilton, now streaming on Disney+. We'll be back with Renee Goldberry in just. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. All right, folks, the amazing Broadway play, which of course has just blown folks away all around the country, Hamilton, is now streaming on Disney+. Remember, it was supposed to come out in movie theaters, but due to coronavirus, Disney chose to actually place it on their new streaming service. It was responsible for a 79% increase in downloads to Disney. I'm sure what it also did was lead to lots of new subscriptions. One of the folks who is the star of Hamilton is actress, singer Renee Elise Goldsberry. Of course, many folks know about her singing that song "Satisfied" in it. You should be seeing some video right now, folks, of it. And this is from the production. So she joins us right now. Renee, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
So how have things been going? This has been first of all, folks who don't know, how long has this Hamilton journey been for you? Because people don't realize, yeah, you got Broadway, but it's like a workshop. It's all kind of other stuff that happens long before you even get to the Broadway stage.
Oh yeah. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda was writing this for, I think, 6 years before I had any knowledge of it. I joined the show in 2014. We did a workshop with the Public Theater, and then we did an off-Broadway run for many months at the Public Theater, and then we waited a couple of months, and then we went to Broadway in August of 2015, and I think I left the show in October of 2016. So it was a couple of years there, but it was a great couple of years, and this is a surprise kind of an early drop of Hamilton. I guess I assumed we filmed the show right before we left the show, the original Broadway cast, and I assumed that I would be an old lady by the time they put this out in a movie theater. But the Lord had other plans, and so here we are on this in this very surprising time, and I'm doing a lot of work from my guest room in my house.
And on that particular point, there again, Lynn owned the movie rights, and it was not the plan to put this in movie theaters so soon, because frankly, what was happening is Hamilton had opened in Chicago, it had opened, other productions had opened in other parts of the country, but then coronavirus just changed the whole game here, and so. Also, share with people, you talked about, going to Broadway in 2015, leaving in 2016. Folks might say, why would you leave a successful play like this here? But it's not like you were only doing one show a week.
Oh, no. We did 8, sometimes 9 shows a week, Roland. 9 shows sometimes. And it's a 3-hour show. It's a lot of work. I often say it felt like holding the Olympic torch, as big of an honor as that is. At some point, your hand starts to wobble. You can only keep it up so long. So, and I knew that the show, any really brilliant piece of art or theater in particular, doesn't need one particular cast to make it great. I've replaced other people in Broadway shows, and I thought I did a pretty good job. So I knew that the show didn't need me in that way. The show itself is really a star. And I have young children, so I needed to come home. But the beauty of it is that, now it's saved in this way. The theatrical experience is saved in this film. And so it's the one thing you normally don't get in theater. People always ask me, what do you like better, film or theater? And the only reason why theater is in any way in question is because, if you missed it, is gone. But if you can film it in a way that captures some of the magic, then it lasts. And that's the blessing we have here.
How first of all, why do you think, what made this so different? I mean, we've seen other Broadway plays. We've seen Dreamgirls. We've seen Cats.
Right.
We've seen The Lion King. We've seen others. But what was so different and just special about this one? I can't think of any Broadway production that has captured the nation's attention like this one. Ticket prices were just crazy.
Yeah.
Thank God I know you personally, so I was able to get 2 tickets for me and my wife. But it was just, what was it?
You know what? I think we'll spend the rest of our lives answering that question. It's definitely a question for people who study this. And I think the answer is that there is no one answer. That's what I love. Do you remember that show Biography that used to be on A&E?
Yeah.
I used to love that show because, sometimes they wouldn't just do one person. They would do like Friends or some show, the Cosby Show, some show that had kind of captured, was like a juggernaut in a time. They would study it and you would realize it really wasn't one element. It was all of the elements combined at a time. And some of the elements have nothing to do with the show or the people putting it on, but just the timing. And that's definitely been the truth about Hamilton. But if I had to give one person credit or one thing credit, it would definitely be the storyteller. I think it's beautiful to really look at Lin-Manuel Miranda and think about kind of the power of perspective. This man is a fusion of he's a history geek. He's a rap, hip hop head. He is a music theater geek. He is he loves, he's the son of an immigrant, Puerto Rican immigrant, family who kind of got really deep into New York politics. He's a fusion of all of these things. And also, he loves a lot of show and tell. There's a bravado there, and he works really hard. And all of those things fuse together to give us this really wonderful story that I can guarantee you, if I pitched it to you, you would have told me I was crazy. Who would have thought it would have worked to tell the story of America then with America now, with the music of now? Who would have thought that you could populate a stage with a diverse cast of people, speaking and singing, and just our our entire moving in our own vernacular and illuminate in any way the founding fathers in a way that was interesting to anybody. Who would have thought you could do that? I think if you have the right storyteller, well, you can.
You make that particular point there in terms of the White House, and you also, of course, well, people didn't realize that he performed. Lin-Manuel Miranda performed this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And folks had no idea that this thing was going to turn out the way it did. I want to play some of that. So, folks, go ahead and go to my iPad.
Because I'm actually working on a hip-hop album. It's a concept album about the life of someone I think embodies hip-hop, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton. You laugh! But it's true. He was born a penniless orphan in St. Croix of illegitimate birth, became George Washington's right-hand man, became Treasury Secretary, caught beef with every other founding father, and all on the strength of his writing. I think he embodies the word's ability to make a difference. So I'm going to be doing the first song from that tonight. I'm accompanied by Tony and Grammy-winning music director Alex Lacamoire. Anything you need to know. I'll be playing Vice President Aaron Burr, and snap along if you like. How does a bastard orphan son of a whore and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished in squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they placed him in charge of the trade and charter, and every day while slaves were being slaughtered or carted away across the waves, our Hamilton kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter. Then a hurricane came, devastation reigned, and our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said, this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. His name is Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million things he hasn't done, but just you wait, just you wait. When he was 10, his father split, full of it, debt-ridden. 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick, and Alex got better, but his mother went quick. Moved in with a cousin, the cousin committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride. Something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf. There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead and destitute without a cent of restitution. Started working, clerking for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and other things he can't afford, scamming for every book he can get his hands on, planning for the future. See him now as he stands on the bow of a ship headed for a new land. In New York, you can be a new man. The ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him. And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him. Alexander Hamilton, we were waiting in the weeds for you. You could never back down, you always had to speak your mind. But Alexander Hamilton, we could never take your deeds from you. In our cowardice and our shame, we be your name, but the world will never be the same. Alexander, yeah. I'm the damn genius that shot him. Thank you.
The thing there, Renee, and I think why it captured the imagination. First of all, one, you make history relevant. You made it interesting, entertaining. To me, it's sort of like the generation of us who grew up on Sesame Street, Electric Company. The presentation wasn't this boring piece, and it actually led to a resurgence of people. And remember, the Ron Chernow book was literally about this huge. And so I think that's what made it inviting, because to be honest, Broadway is not really the most inviting place.
Are you paused for me to say something?
No, I'm just saying it's just not. I think it made it relevant to an audience who normally would not go to Broadway plays.
Absolutely. Yeah, Broadway is a challenge because it is kind of a commercial institution that is cost prohibitive. And so you have a lot of artists who, some would think are at the top of their game, and yet they are now kind of in this elitist structure. So yeah, in Hamilton in particular, there was a challenge. I have to say this, actually. I've answered this question a bunch of times, but I haven't said this one particular thing. We start off Broadway at the Public Theater, where the ticket is free. So we were there for about 5 months. There is also always, when there's a demand for something, always an impossibility of getting in, even in that structure. Money can always keep people out, even in that structure. But we did definitely start there. But we became famous because nobody could get a ticket to the show, and actually that's the beauty of what this moment is, with it coming out streaming on Disney Plus, where we're talking about a $7 a month subscription and you don't have to leave your house to see it. That's the fulfillment of the dream of this group of artists. Because it was always the intention to make this accessible to the people that really the story is written for and about. And that is why, that's why it's said over again: bastard, orphan, son of a whore, everything immigrant, everything, every slur that is thrown thrown to this day. It's the intention is to call all of you people who are slurred in this country and remind you that you are actually the people that created this country. You are the best part of this country, from not just today, but from the very beginning. And if you know that, even with nothing, you are the powerful change that is still here. So that's always the point that it was making, and the excitement about it coming out. We didn't even see this coming, and at this time and in this form is very poetic to us.
Well, and also I think, let's just be honest, people of color, we bring a little spice to stuff. And it's a lot more flavor. And then, because this is not what a typical Broadway production looks like in terms of the level of diversity, not just those on the stage, but those who are in control of setting the narrative.
Absolutely. There are, we didn't invent casting a diverse group of people, for sure. There are all kinds of shows with a diverse group of people, definitely not enough, of course, but that happens all the time. I think what we were credited with, and I should say by we, I mean the people that made those decisions in the beginning before I got there, is recognizing that the casting has nothing to do with what, the outside in, the idea. They were very well aware that there would be no accessibility whatsoever to this story if they were looking for somebody that looked like George Washington. There would be nobody would have a way in, right? Even people that might look like George Washington, quite honestly. If you tell the story of this group of revolutionaries and you make it look like Mount Rushmore, you're not speaking to this country anymore. And so it was a very smart choice. It was a very calculated choice. It was the right choice. And it was the choice made by the people that, the people that wrote it, or the people that look like the people on stage. It's the same person. So it's seamless.
So how has it changed your career?
Oh, well, gosh, everybody got a bump up, Roland. Hamilton is it's a game changer for anybody that's anywhere around it. It kind of reminds me of when I was in The Color Purple many years ago, and at some point it was a very exciting day that they announced that Oprah Winfrey was going to join to produce the show, and literally anywhere I went, everybody just to be in anywhere around Oprah, I just had a lot more attention around me and a lot more access to things myself. And that's kind of what Hamilton feels like. People really love it. That the beauty of it in the world that we live in, where we are so siloed in terms of whatever we're doing, even if you're successful in whatever space you're in, the world is, just the way we consume media now. You're over there and I'm over here and this person's over there. And what Hamilton did is unique in my experience, and I've been in the entertainment industry for a long time. It really popped so many different bubbles. It was not just a group of theater people that love this show, or a group of historians that love this show, or people that love hip hop music loving this show, or Americans loving this show, or Black people loving this show. It's really old people, young people, kids. I mean, it's pervasive. It's every group of people. I mean, I'm confident there are people that don't love it, but I've never in my life been in anything, no matter how successful, that the demo doesn't matter what box, you can check them all in terms of people that will be inspired by this piece of work.
So
we started in I loved that you showed that clip as opposed to so many others, because you can see that we were born in the Obama administration. I mean, this show, Michelle Obama just was posting about us, supporting us on Instagram yesterday, and I was responding to her and thanking her for personally championing this show. This show was born in that family, in the hands of that particular administration. And we thought in the moment, because they brought us to the White House, everybody came, they came several times. She did everything that she could to support that show because she felt it was so representative of what she believed art was supposed to be. And we had so many moments with them, just putting their own name on this and trying. And I think our president, Barack Obama, said to us many times the thing I'm saying to you now in terms of understanding the blessing of what we had, because in his own experience, he was aware of the fact that to be acknowledged for doing something in the moment that you're doing it is extremely rare. And since that is happening to you, for me, please appreciate that. That's what he would say to us. So we were born in that administration and did not see what was coming. And I often believe that we were not necessarily for the administration we were born in. We were for a time that looks perhaps like this. And so I've never been surprised when things keep changing, and me still being able to find relevance in the show that was born in that really wonderful, nurturing space.
Well, it also was always interesting when to have other talented people, individuals, actors who on Broadway, who understood what it meant as well. The night, and I'm trying to pull it up, the night that I was there was the first night I got a chance to meet Brian Dennehy. And he was, I think, let me see if I can go ahead and get this straight here. Y'all should be able to see it. Here's a photo right here. And that was amazing to see other artists. Guys, you see the photo? Go ahead. That was amazing to see other artists who would come and were blown away by the production as well.
Yeah, it was crazy. We didn't. One reason why I was so tired is because you couldn't take a day off because you would have missed somebody. We met all of our heroes, and the beauty of meeting people in that way is that you get to kind of meet them as peers because they come after they sat through 3 hours of a story we told. And so it's not like, oh, hi, whoever, Beyonce, whoever it is, Prince, whoever you've been dreaming to meet. You meet them on a level where you can actually have a conversation with them, which is surreal.
So how was that Prince conversation?
Well, I didn't have the Prince conversation. I just wanted to say his name.
Did you have a Beyonce conversation?
I did have a Beyonce.
Okay, cool.
I did. She is. She was just. I mean, the beauty of people showing up is they were aware that there was another thing afterwards, which is to come on stage and to give us something back by just saying hello. But yeah, her and Jay-Z came and she just was lovely. I think she touched my neck or something and said something really beautiful about the way I sing, and I think I wrote it down and it's probably framed in my room, but I'll blow it off. And but yeah, no, everybody. I mean, but Prince, he came, and I think the night before we were living a crazy pinch me moment. A friend of mine, his publicist is a friend of mine, and she said Prince is coming into town to do a concert, a surprise pop up thing, at this little club. Y'all want to come after the show? And we went, and we were up till like 6 o'clock in the morning, just me and us and the cast of The Color Purple in this very little bar, watching him play after we had done our very challenging shows. It was over about 5 o'clock in the morning. Our lives were changed. And then the next...
Oh, that show was over early for Prince, 5 o'clock.
I know, but it was hard. We had to wake up and do 2 more shows. Mm-hmm. And then he came. He came to our show the night after that when we had no sleep. And he sat in the box, kind of up on the left. And it's probably one of my worst mistakes is I didn't think I'd be able to get through the show if I looked up at him.
Right.
I decided that I was going to just do my show because everybody else in the audience that had, was there was just as important. I just did my regular show, and then as soon as I went to take the bow, I looked up to see him, and have a moment where I could be on a stage and see Prince, and I literally saw the curtain closing, like he just slipped away.
Wow.
So I've never actually didn't get to see him there, but I know in my heart that he came, he sat through the whole show, and he was absolutely loving. And it was just maybe a few weeks later when we heard that he passed away. It was it's the first time in my life, Roland, that I had ever been trending. We were part of something. And what I learned about this entertainment industry that I didn't know before is when you're trending, the way people that are very successful and are trending stay successful and trending is that they the proximity they get to whoever is new on the block. And so we didn't have to do anything. We just sat there, and everybody, if you were a politician, if you were a sports, anybody, whatever you were, in fashion, the top of everybody came to kind of rub elbows with us, and it was a really magical time. Not because of what seems so superficial about that, but because we were so proud of the message of what we were doing.
Well, folks, we cannot show you, obviously we can't show you video from the production, but because of that wonderful thing called the public domain, we're going to end the show with showing you some of the Hamilton workshop that took place at the Obama White House. And you'll actually get to hear Renee sing. Yeah, see, that's the beauty of understanding the rules and procedures. That because it's public domain, when you do it at the White House, you don't have to deal with the normal copyright drama. So, Renee, certainly enjoyed having you on the show. Good luck with everything, and it was certainly an amazing ride. And trust me, look. Y'all gonna be getting checks for a long time because Hamilton is not going away anytime soon.
Thank you, Roland. Thanks for always supporting. Miss you.
Appreciate it, darling. Take care. Be well.
You too.
Folks, we'll end the show again. This is the Hamilton Workshop taking place at the Obama White House. What year was it? Don't even matter. We'll figure it out. But I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. Check this out. Holla!
How does a bastard orphan, son of a whore,
what an incredible gift these folks have given to the United States of America. It is rare where a piece of art can remind us about what's best in ourselves.
The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they placed him in charge of a trading charter.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came and
devastation reigned. Our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton.
Father split, full of it, dead, ridden 2 years later. See Alexander's mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick. And Alex got better, but his mother went quick.
Moved in with the cousin committed suicide. Left him with nothing but ruined pride. Something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf.
There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead or destitute without a sense of restitution. Started working for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford. Scamming for every book he can get his hands on, planning for the future. See him now as he stands on the bow of a ship, headed for a new land. In New York, you can be a new man.
New York, you can just be a new man. New York, you can just be a new man. In New York, you can be a new man. In New York, just you wait.
Alexander Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton.
I'm waiting in the wings for you. Waiting in the wings for you. You never back down. You never learn to take your time. Oh, Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
When America sings for you, will they know what you overcame? Will they know you rewrote the game? The world will never be the same. Oh.
The ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him.
We fought with him.
Me, I died for him.
Me, I trusted him.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait.
What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton.
Philip Schuyler, the man is loaded. Uh-oh, but little does he know that his daughters, Peggy, Angelica, Eliza, sneak into the city just to watch all the guys.
Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. Schuyler's sister. Angelica, Peggy, Eliza. What? Daddy said to be home by sundown. Daddy doesn't need to know. Daddy said not to go downtown. Like I said, you're free to go. But look around, the revolution's happening in New York. New York. Angelica, work. It's bad enough Daddy wants to go to war. People shouting in the square. It's bad enough there'll be violence on our shore. New ideas in the air. Look around, look around. Angelica, remind me what we're looking for.
She's looking for me.
Eliza, I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. Whoa, 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 work.
Woo! This There's nothing like summer in the city. Someone in a rush next to someone looking pretty. Excuse me, miss, I know it's not funny, but your perfume smells like your daddy's got money. Why you slumming in the city in your fancy heels? You searching for an urchin who can give you ideals?
Sir, you disgust me.
Ah, so you've discussed me. I'm a trust fund, baby, you can trust me.
I've been reading Common Sense by Thomas Paine. So men say that I'm intense or I'm insane. You want a revolution, I want a revelation. So listen to my declaration.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'ma compel him to include women in the sequel. Work!
Look around, look how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening in Manhattan, and we just happen to be in the greatest city in the world. In the greatest city in the world.
Just look around,
absolutely
that I'm intense and I'm insane.
New York,
I want a revelation. My declaration.
we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening in Manhattan, and we just happen to be in the greatest city in the world. In the greatest city in the world.
Angelica, Eliza,
I'm Peggy,
the Schuyler sisters.
we're looking for a minor work. Hey, in the greatest city, in the greatest city in the world.
That's magic. That's what these guys have done. And that is a great gift. Thank you so much, everybody. We love you guys. Thank you.